All right, guys, let's take a look at this Bulova diver. This is the Oceanographer, and a lot of people refer to it as the Devil Diver because it says automatic snorkel 666 feet for the depth rating down below. But if we're looking at the font, you have an applied Bulova logo up top in their older style original font, and then printing of Oceanographer right below that. So we'll do some more close-ups on the dial in a moment because the indices are pretty wild, as is the date magnifier. But first off, right out of the gate, I gotta tell you, other than say maybe like a Doxa or something like that, when you're dealing with like a cushion case, outside of Seiko obviously, this is easily one of the coolest watches of this style case, I think. And it's certainly because of the total package, the way they did their indices. I mean, they're super tall, they stand off, and then the box sapphire crystal with the date magnifier that's applied on the bottom. Like you can see, there's no protruding date magnifier. It's underneath the crystal. I love seeing that. I'd like to see it more, honestly. I know it's not as effective, but it works well on this application, and I think it looks super cool. So, case size. Now, when these first came out, there was like a huge deal where they were like very true to the original on the first issue or reissue they did with that orange dial one. I think that was a 40 mil. This one here is the more run-of-the-mill one that most of us can get, no problem. So you're looking at a 44 millimeter case, a very short 46 lug to lug. You can see that case shape all polished up. It's very cool. It wears great. It's going to be super comfortable. I'll show you that in a moment. The thickness, including all the way from the case back to the boxed domed, double domed sapphire crystal, is going to be 14.5 millimeter. You have a 20 millimeter lug width. Bracelet tapers down to about 18. It's hard to see, but it does taper. It tapers really early on, and then it carries that. So you have brushed center links, polished outer flanks, and then they're ovalish, so very nicely done. Screw links. So it doesn't feel super great, on the bracelet, but it is a good bracelet. You have your fold over locking piece there, signed, clasp, double pushers release. The stamp is completely, or the clasp is completely stamped, including the dive extension. So then you have 3 micro adjust, but it is super comfortable. A little bit of information on the case back there, the brand, the sapphire crystal, and all that good stuff. Diver's watch, 200 meter. So let's solid end links on this thing too. So let me pop this on wrist so you can see what it looks like on my 7 1/4 wrist. Feels, wears great. Most of us are used to like Seiko watches. That's that cushion case. That's part of the magic to get the, say, 44 millimeter watch to wear perfect on wrist. They didn't invent it. I'm sure other people have done it beforehand, but anybody that pretty much implements it seems like they do a good job with it. And Bulova certainly has done a good job of it, back in the day when this was originally come out, I think in the 70s, and then certainly on this reissue. So, all right, let's take a closer look if we can. Hopefully it's not too smudged up. But if we take a closer look at that dial, you can see those indices, how they're done. They're almost set like a stone in a ring. So you have like that square part down below with the pegs, and then you have the, I'm assuming it's some sort of acrylic that is standoff there. So then you can get a really good dynamic effect on there. Pretty much in this colorway, you kind of have a matte green colored. It's fairly true to what you're seeing on camera. I feel like it has a little more green in real life. I tried to take some pictures and it's not easy to do with this guy. So really nice standard handset there, a lollipop on the end of the seconds hand. And then check out that date magnifier. That is just slick. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing there. It's smooth. So it's pretty trippy when you first discover it. Framed out date window. So gripes on this watch. I typically don't gripe on a watch. I would say probably they could have used a different movement. They have access to a ton of different movements, and they went with the Miyota 821D, which is winding, self-winding, and hand winding. but it is non-hacking. I don't know why they wouldn't go with the 9000 series movement. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think retail price on these is $7.95. You're pretty much not going to pay that. I think looking around, if you're patient, you should be able to be somewhere between the $400 and $500 range. I think that is perfect for this watch. So really nice bezel action. It's very, you know, audible, and there's like a very minimal amount of play. So, and everything lines up like you would want in a $400 or $500 watch. So signed crown, just an overall really good package. So a big thanks to Chris for sharing his Bulova Oceanographer with us. And I'm glad I got to be able to see one. I could see owning one of these. It certainly feels more like a Doxa than it does a Seiko to me, just because, you know, you have the 3 o'clock crown and the case is a little more sharper in its design. And then you have a lot of those retro inspired details on the dial, certainly. So it's definitely vintage looking. And I think to score one of these for around $500, there's a bunch of different colorways, I think is definitely something to look into. I'll give you a lume shot here in a moment. Before I do that, I want to just kind of show it next to an SKX so you get some sort of proportion going on there. Definitely way more dramatic of a case design, and then, you know, without the offset crown, it's definitely not looking like a Seiko or anything like that. It's definitely more of a vintage Bulova. I see Doxa when I handle this and see it. A very comfortable one indeed. So let me give you that lume shot. I really didn't find any information on what lume they're using, but seems to glow pretty good. I wasn't sure how well those indices would do because they're almost in like a tube. So, but it seems pretty bright. So it's either a heavy application of C1 or it could potentially be C3. I don't know. If you guys know, let me know. But it seems like it's pretty good. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next vid.